She's still singing. It's a very professional show. We have our stuff together. Wait for it. Oh, that's good. That's good. That was a good ending. Okay, I think we're ready now. Are we ready? Okay. Greetings, legislators. How are you doing today? Welcome back to Decentralization. I will be Patrick Smith. Today, we have one of my favorite things. We have people that disagree with me, and they're calling in to tell me why. I might learn something new today, which always gets me excited. And Christian has asked to join here today as well. Welcome to the show, Christian. How are you today? Oh, wrong person. There we go. Can't hear you, Christian. Are you muted?
I shouldn't be.
On my end. I'm just failing all over the place today. Let's just get this over with. Welcome to the show, Justin. We're all here. Hey.
How you doing, guys? It's good to be here.
Doing good. What's up, Christian? You didn't really get your intro. How you doing?
Oh, no, I was just saying, hey, thanks for having me. It's always fun.
Awesome. All right, cool. So Justin contacted me with with a request to have an opportunity to talk with me about some objections, maybe some critiques that he had about our Mark Passio natural law critique. So what I would like to do today is just give Justin the time to lay out his objections and positions and see if we can talk through it for the purposes of finding more truth. Then, after we're done speaking with Justin, we have another caller lined up to, I'm not quite sure which topic that they're looking to criticize us on. I think it's probably either one or both of abortion and anti-subjectivism. So we will move on to that caller. Following that caller, if there is anyone else left in the world that disagrees with us, you're welcome to hop on our Discord server and join the live streaming voice chat. You will be muted by default until we are ready for you. And if I see you in there, I'll unmute you and we'll take your questions and criticisms that way. So link in the description to our Discord server. It's the disenthrall.me/platforms. There's a link in there to join our Discord if you want to be one of the callers that disagrees with us. This is your opportunity. Let's see. Anything else I need to talk about? I think that's about it. Justin, thank you for being one of the rare people in the world that takes time out of their life to think about and concern themselves with philosophy. And thank you twice as much for being one of the people with the fortitude of their convictions to step up and talk with somebody that disagrees with you. So those are both extremely admirable qualities. Welcome to the show. I'm just going to hand the floor to you, and we'll go wherever you'd like to go.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. Just one comment I wanted to make so far about the introduction is I don't think this is really going to be a debate. My intention in coming onto the show is to clear up just some confusion that might be present. That's pretty common when people listen to different natural law concepts. So what I'm really striving for is just a very stimulating and insightful discussion with fellow truth seekers.
I like the vibe. Well, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So I just have a little bit of an outline here that I wanted to go through. I just wanted to start with some definitions. So let's start with the biggest definition there is, just natural law. So what is natural law? So in a very general sense, it's just universal, non-man-made, binding, and immutable conditions that govern the consequences of behavior. Now, there's a lot of laws that make up natural law. So I wanted to narrow it down a little bit. So specifically within all the laws that make up natural law, I wanted to talk about natural moral law, or karmic law, as it's been called in the past. So in order to start talking about this, some confusion needs to be cleared up. And that confusion has to do with objective morality, because over time, objective morality has been the concept of it itself has been obfuscated. So it's been purposely confused in people's minds. And what its effects look like in the external world have also been obfuscated as well.
Well, I mean, to add to that, I mean, one of the reasons why it's obfuscated, if it is because there's 50 different flavors of objective morality throughout thousands of years of history. The the concept has been pulled all over the map. But I mean, would you agree that the concept of objective morality typically means it is a judgment of good and evil that applies to all humans, whether or not they even know about the rules involved? Sort of a universal moral equation?
Yeah, I would say so, but it doesn't quite mean the way that people think it does. So let me explain a little bit. So when we're talking about objective morality, what we're really talking about is just, sorry if I'm looking over, I'm just reading what I wrote here.
Oh, read your notes, man. Precise. It's all good.
So when we're talking about objective morality, we're talking about a collection of specific behaviors whose quality determines whether human beings experience freedom, order, and the cessation of self-inflicted suffering, or whether humanity experiences slavery, chaos, and the abundance of unnecessary self-inflicted suffering. So when we're talking about something as being objectively moral, like a particular behavior, what we're really talking about is any sort of behavior that contributes to the creation of freedom, order, and the cessation of self-inflicted suffering in the aggregate.
I mean, I'm fine moving forward with that as the definition of objective morality. I think that's a pretty non-standard one, but that's fine. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. Christian, you have any thoughts?
Nope, I'm still tracking.
All right.
Cool. So when we're talking about objective morality, what these ancients in the mystery school traditions, just based off my couple years of research, and those that are in these occult traditions, what they're trying to explain when they're talking about objective morality is that we as humans do not get to decide what behaviors produces the results that we say we want. Like if we want freedom, order, and prosperity, there's certain prerequisite requirements that are required in order to produce those results. But if chaos, slavery, and self-inflicted suffering is going to manifest, then there are particular, very specific reasons why that happens. Any questions so far?
I agree that if you're... Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a quick one, just to make sure I'm on the same page as you. So are we just, as far as how you're defining it, are we to take the slavery, chaos, and self-inflicted suffering as evil in a moral sense in and of themselves? Or is there something about these things that necessarily makes them evil?
Well, if you were to take bias completely out of it, take human preferences completely out of the equation, and no one had any sort of preference for any sort of outcome in the world, whether that be freedom or slavery, then you could make the argument that there is no objective morality. But when these ancients talked about objective morality, they're not talking about it in that sense. They're talking about it in a sense where there's certain ways of being in the world that produce good results that we say we want, and then there's other ways of being that produce the bad results that we say we don't want. So that's how I'm speaking about objective morality.
I don't have a problem speaking about it that way, as long as we're acknowledging that it's based on setting the goal of my goal is to live peacefully. My goal is to live according to these rules. Therefore, these actions are what's going to get me there as an individual. Which of course doesn't mean that those things are objectively right or wrong or good or evil. It's in relation to the goal that you set.
Yeah, exactly. It's in relation to a goal. And I'm a very practical sort of philosopher. So I'm always trying to figure out ways of how I could use information to better my life and the life of others around me. And based off the research I've done, this is what objective morality, or this concept of objective morality, was trying to convey to people. So with that, we could go a little bit further into it. So the next section I have here is objective morality in the creation of slavery systems. So there's a variety of different slavery systems that can be created, all sorts of external monarchies, government, technocracy, fascism, communism. Lots of different flavors of slavery systems. And there are very specific ways and underlying patterns that could be examined and acknowledged that always end up creating these sort of slavery systems. But before I get too deep into that, I wanted to talk about what exactly a constitution is. And when I say constitution, I'm not talking about a country's paper constitution that government officials write down or the founders of a country have written down in the past. What I'm really talking about when I talk about constitution in the section that I want to cover next is people's internal constitution. So let's first define constitution. A constitution is just the composition or makeup of something. So if you look at the notes, you'll see that I've outlined two different types of constitutions. The first one right here is the immoral constitution under natural law. So this constitution consists of an individual being in a state of cowardice, ignorance, apathy, and laziness. So under natural law, that would be considered an immoral constitution. The next type of constitution is a moral constitution. And this consists of an individual being in a state of courage, having knowledge, being engaged instead of apathetic, and being activated. So I just wanted to give you guys this prerequisite information before I get into the next section.
Any comments?
Can
on
I
any
just
questions so far? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just really want to make sure that I'm on the same page as you. So this is just clarification question. So all of this is oriented towards the goal. So there's nothing inherently, like, say someone is completely content with their life and they don't really want anything to change. There's nothing evil about being apathetic in that context, right? Like, you would necessarily be apathetic.
Yeah, once again, if you take out the bias, if you don't have any sort of goal, if you don't have a preference as to really what you want your life to look like or you want society to look like, then you can make the argument. I wouldn't disagree that there's nothing in nature saying you can't do that.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. Okay, so the next part is where the arguments start. And I don't think you guys are really going to disagree with this as soon as I start getting into the details. So the first thing I wrote here is, if humanity embodies an immoral constitution, so which consisted of everything I listed above, cowardice, ignorance, apathy, and laziness, then humanity will experience slavery, chaos, and unnecessary self-inflicted suffering. But the inverse is true as well. So if humanity embodies a moral constitution, then humanity will experience freedom, order, and the sensation of unnecessary self-inflicted suffering. And the reason why that is because this always plays out in a similar way in the aggregate. So let's start with the, I call it the dishonorable constitution, but also the immoral constitution. So what happens when people exist in a state of cowardice, ignorance, apathy, and laziness? So step number one is you have fear and ignorance. So from this state, next, you have the desire to control others. Because if people are in survival mode, then they're trying to control their external environment in a way where they feel like they increase their chances of survival in some way. So from fear and ignorance, you get the desire to control others. And then number three is a concept I came up with myself called the dog-eat-dog dynamic, also called the sorting out phase. So when people exist in a way that's considered immoral, when they have the immoral constitution, where they're ignorant, lazy, and apathetic, for example, then what happens is it creates a power vacuum in nature. So it gives those that are psychopathic, that are willing to actually put in the work, that have knowledge and have the desire to make something out of this world, it gives them the ability to exert control. It gives them the power to exert control over others, because people aren't claiming their own personal power. So from this dog-eat-dog dynamic, the sorting out phase, what you have is a bunch of people, basically psychopaths, that are fighting with each other for control. And after a period of time, the fighting sort of stops, and it ends up creating a sort of it creates a sort of society that could be visualized with a pyramid type of structure. And the people that end up at the top end up being the people that care about their agenda the most. So they care about their agenda the most. They have a particular vision for the world that they want to implement. And they're also the most ruthless and the most knowledgeable as to how to manipulate people. And they're the most knowledgeable of human psychology, and also as to how the rules of manifestation work in the world. So you have a small group of individual at the very top of the pyramid, and then there's different levels of that pyramid, and that has to do with how much knowledge each person has. So at the very base of the pyramid, you have the most number of people. You have the ignorant masses. And at the top of the pyramid, you have the most psychopathic people that really care about their agenda and have the most knowledge and the courage basically to implement their plan. So that's what ends up being created after this dog eat dog dynamic plays out, after the sorting out phase. So from that point, what you see the centralization of power. And I sort of already went through this, where those that end up at the top have the most knowledge and the most courage to carry out their plan. So there's that, the centralization of power, and that's how a slavery system ends up getting built. Because as long as people, like for example, if people aren't taking personal responsibility, they're existing in a state of cowardice, of ignorance. They don't really care about themselves or really the state of nature in the world. What it ends up creating is a psychopath honeypot. It creates a centralized power structure that all the highly knowledgeable, determined psychopaths, it creates a power structure that they could flock to, that's centralized, that ends up controlling all of society. Any questions so far?
No, but we do have a super chat. Thanks for the $7. The Invisible Hand Institute over on Twitch. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm not hearing any like really strong sort of claims that I can sink my teeth into. So I kind of want to just let you continue and make sure that you are able to get through the things that you wanted to talk about. But
cool.
Go ahead, Christian. Any objection from you?
Nope.
All right.
Awesome. So that's how a slavery system ends up getting built. And just because of the nature of psychopathy, what ends up happening is that they're never satisfied with the amount of power they have. So it always has to be more power, even if it seems completely irrational. I mean, I'm sure we've all met these people that maybe have all the money that they want. You know, they'll never have to work a day in their life again. Maybe they have all the friends they want. Maybe they've had all the romantic partners they've ever wanted, but they're still not happy. Well, that's sort of exactly what's happening to these psychopaths, is that they keep pushing it further because they think they're going to get to a point where they're actually happy and they feel better. But because they're psychopathic and they don't realize how they're basically being controlled, I mean, by the force of fear, then that never ends up happening. And as a result, you see these sort of slavery systems that kind of try to maintain and expand its power indefinitely. So on the flip side, if humanity embodies what I call an honorable constitution or a moral constitution, you start off from a place of courage and wisdom. And from that place, you have the desire to work cooperatively. And from this state, people don't have an unhealthy desire to control others. And a lot of this comes from just having enough knowledge and being able to recognize that working cooperatively is good for the individual and for the aggregate of humanity as well. So when you have people embody a moral constitution where they're engaged, where they're active, where they're knowledgeable, where they're courageous, What you see in reality is the decentralization of power. There's no power vacuum that gets created. There's no centralized power structure that gets created that psychopaths are able to flock to in order to control everyone else. So, as a result of this decentralization of power, you see organizations and individuals that work together in harmony. And from this place, humanity is able to truly discover its true potential. And that's when you get freedom, order, and prosperity and everything that we say we want. So that basically sums up everything I wanted to talk about.
Cool.
If anyone has any comments or questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, thanks for that. Thanks for taking the time. Go ahead, Christian.
I was just going to say I'm ready to start digging in, I think, at this point. It seems all pretty straightforward, at least how you've presented it. Unless, Patrick, you want to take the wheel first? Or
I'm trying to find a place to plant a flag just for the purposes of the discussion. I haven't heard anything that constitutes an objective morality or any kind of existent natural law. I think the things that you said are can be thought of as generally true if to the degree that the general population in the aggregate doesn't attack each other is the degree to which the general population in the aggregate will be safe from attack. That is kind of tautological and true on average. That doesn't make an objective morality. It's just a good way. I mean, it's a good rule of thumb to live your life. And like I said multiple times now, like, hey, if it makes you happy, go for it. You know, live peacefully, treat other people around you well. You will likely be more prosperous. You will likely be more safe and happy. And I bet you're going to enjoy your life more if you surround yourself with other people that are trying to do the same.
Yeah. Like, you're never going to hear me make the argument that there's something magical in the clouds or some sort of particle that I could point to that says, outside of everyone's bias, this is objective morality. The way I talk about this always comes from the foundation of goals. It comes from the foundation of the results that we want to achieve as humanity. And something I really want to stress is people think they can exist in a state of ignorance and cowardice and apathy and laziness, and they think they can be free. But my argument is that you can't be free, because those people that are not lazy, that are not apathetic, and have a lot of knowledge and are willing to enact their agenda, they're going to be the ones that manipulate you and control you. So that's just a really easy down to earth way of putting it.
I would invite you to reconsider your choice of words for what you're calling that. Like if it's goal oriented, if it hinges on you setting a goal for yourself, I would invite you, philosophically at least, to stop calling that objective morality. Because if it's goal based, it's necessarily not objective. It's subjective based on your personal selection of goals. I'm curious if you've read or watched the video Anti-Subjectivist Manifesto, just so I can know where we are. Okay. So you'll notice that we call out very explicitly in the beginning of that document Hume's law and how there is a fact-value dichotomy. We can't extract goals from nature, from reality. We have to choose those ourselves. And from there, acknowledging that, selecting the goal of elevating ourselves out of the state of nature where the violence and lack of concern for consent exists, we can then build the opposite of that absence of consent, meaning we respect consent of the people around us and kind of move up from there. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I like a lot of the stuff that you brought up in that video. And I'm not attached to calling this objective morality. You know, if we want to call it something else, I'm not really attached to these labels. This is just what I've come to understand of what they were trying to say objective morality was, based off these mystery schools and occult traditions. But yeah, I totally understand your point.
Well, we might not disagree too much then. I mean, if we're just kind of giving our opinions on life advice and how we can all, if we all work together, I should say it this way, the more people that adopt peaceful consent-based interactions, the more peaceful and consentful their lives will be. And there's no disagreement here for me on that. That's how I live, and that's the type of people I surround myself with on purpose, for those reasons.
Yeah. Exactly. And as you start getting more into the occult, and what I talked about here is just sort of the foundations, the overall big picture of it all. As you start getting more deep into it, it becomes very interesting to discover, okay, what sort of knowledge do I actually need to have in order to be free? What is it that these people know that's so helpful in giving them the power that they have? And how is it that I need to be in the world where I could help to create the condition of freedom for myself and others? That's when studying this stuff becomes very interesting. And Mark Passio's work, his podcast is actually very, very good. If you're able to suspend disbelief a little bit as to some of the things that he talks about that you might, initially disagree with.
Say it again, whose podcast?
Passio.
Oh, okay. I missed it. Sorry.
And, as we were talking about before the stream even started, I watched that entire 14-hour natural law seminar with you guys.
Kudos to you.
And I just thought it was important enough to do the job. So I did it. And I wasn't disagreeing with you guys. I think your criticisms were valid. I just wanted to come onto this show to kind of point out a few points of confusion that might have been present as to how you were interpreting or how you have traditionally thought of objective morality to be versus what Mark is talking about. Because the sort of stuff that I'm talking about is, from my understanding, what he was trying to emphasize. It's always going to be goal-oriented.
I think, at least as far as me, and then I'll turn it over to Christian. As far as me, that's the way you described it. A collection of behaviors that whose outcomes are determined by reality. Let's say, when it comes to that kind of tautology of if everybody in society on the aggregate is less violent towards one another, there's less violence in society. Like. Yeah, I agree. I just disagree with Passio specifically, and it doesn't sound like with you, but it was the trying to elevate that to an objective, universal, moral philosophy. That standard of evidence was definitely not met. And like I said multiple times now, like I agree with almost all of Passio's conclusions. I agree that a lot of his work and a lot of his talks are good, and they're worth watching. I just wish that he could see the missing cornerstone in that work as when it's attempted to be elevated to the level of a moral philosophy. That was the whole contention here. And again, this whole conversation, which I'm appreciative of because it's led to additional follow on a lot of really good chats and a lot of good talks and a lot of thoughts that I wouldn't have had otherwise. But, all this was started by my viewers saying, hey, Patrick, Mark Passio has this body of work, this natural law seminar. Can you tell us your thoughts? And so that was the opening factor in beginning down this road of watching Passio. I didn't know what to expect. We watched Passio's seminar. It could have been a situation of like, holy shit, this guy has solved moral philosophy. He's solved ethics. He's got the holy grail of right and wrong and good and evil here. That could have been how it worked out. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I'm still hoping that somebody does. Certainly hasn't been me yet. But it's a valiant thing to work on. It's a valiant problem to attempt to solve. I respect people that attempt to solve it, because they're rare. People that put in the time and effort to like try and work on this stuff is good. So.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to just fluff up the conversation. I'm just trying to a lot of people have made this whole thing way more contentious than it was intended to be.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with that. Something I wanted to say about, him elevating this stuff to a science is that my interpretation of his work, my interpretation of the point he's trying to make by calling this a science is that you're never going to see a society that's free as long as people are a certain way in that society. So it'll always be determined by their quality of being. It'll be determined by their constitution. Whether they're courageous, knowledgeable, engaged, and activated.
okay, well, let me step aside now. Christian, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I do have some thoughts, and this is to be. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm trying to be descriptive here of like what my brain is doing right here. And what I'm seeing is this feels more to me like a plan of action than it is a moral philosophy, because any of the moralizing that would have to take place in order to influence this as the right or wrong way to do things is divorced from this equation, right? So what we've essentially got here, at least from my perspective, and feel free to disagree with me if you do, is we have like, okay, you think for whatever reason that freedom and all of these things are things you want. This is how you get them. That's like that's about as much of a moral philosophy as like a how to lose weight book is, right? Like you want to accomplish something, here's steps you can do to achieve that. And it sounds like I'm being like maybe super
feeling
dismissive
personally
about this.
attacked right now.
I'm not trying to be like aggressively. I just don't know how else to say it other than like this isn't moral philosophy in any way that I understand it. And where the moral philosophy could be is like, hey, it's like murder's always bad and this is why. That's like one example of like how you could inject moral philosophy into this kind of thing. Or like slavery is always bad and here's why. But if you have to like agree that to the goals beforehand, this is a plan of action. So I don't know what your thoughts on that is.
No, I agree. Based off of all the study I've done of the occult, if you guys have ever looked into much personal development or self-help content out there, I see the occult as basically being the highest form of self-help. At least that's how I've interpreted it. And I've taken in a lot of self-help like over the years.
I've heard as many different definitions for the occult as I've heard of God. Like everybody has their own sort of personal definition of what belief in God means. And I've heard a lot of different things for occult. So if you want to talk about occult, I would need you to define it as you use it and think of it.
Yeah, the occult, I mean, just basically people like to split it up into two different fields of study. As Passio puts it, the minor arcana and the major arcana. The major arcana being just the study of the laws of the universe, the laws of manifestation. The minor arcana being just the study of the self, how the self works, how the mind works, how the body works, everything having to do with the self. And yeah, whenever you talk to me about this kind of stuff, it's always going to be about very goal oriented and sort of like a self-help manual. That's where I found all the value in this sort of stuff. And
I can see that. Like as a self-help sort of program, there's lots of things that you can look at lots of things through the lens of self-help and come up with systems that can help people. So
yeah. What's interesting is, I had studied self-help for about 10 years before coming into the occult. And as soon as I started learning a little bit more about the minor arcana and the major arcana, I realized, wow, I've been learning about basically the occult my entire life. I was studying self-help. And this is just, self-help taken to the highest level it could be taken to. Now, I wanted to make a comment on some of Mark Passio's seminars. I did go through the whole 14-hour stream, and what I realized is I love some of his seminars. His podcast is incredible, but I do have some criticism as to how he presents, if he's open to taking feedback. And yeah, were you going to say something?
Oh no, I was chuckling. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
We have a meme, I guess, that has developed after we did that stream where we call it pasiotic evidence, which is like, you want proof? I'll say it to their face. That's pasiotic evidence. Sorry.
So I just wanted to say is, yeah, and that's funny stuff. I just wanted to say that there was a long period of time where Passio was just taking in a whole bunch of information. And over time, you end up taking so much information in that you sort of forget the mindset that people that haven't taken in that sort of occult information are at. So as soon as you find yourself in that position, you sort of lose the ability to talk to people in a way that meets them where they're at in order to connect all these concepts.
That sounds like a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem
that you'd want to solve about yourself. So it sounds like you have a self-help program that makes you worse at interacting with people. It's not,
well,
it's not very self-help.
Of my own, but maybe I should. And I think this is something maybe that Passio doesn't see in himself. And, maybe this is something I could have a conversation with him about. Because the way that he structured his natural law seminar, for example, after seeing your guys' feedback, I'm realizing I would have structured it in a very different way than he would have done it to actually produce value. Because you're right, it was just a big string of assertions. And I think, part of his attention might have been to just try to give a large overview as to what's being talked about in these occult traditions, to try to spark interest so that people go and try to study it for themselves and try to prove it to themselves. So I think the intention was to spark curiosity, but it ended up having the opposite effect on a lot of people. It ended up producing a lot of resistance, and understandably so, because he never really actually deeply proved anything. So I just wanted to emphasize, yeah, go ahead, Christian.
Would you say that your conception of natural law, would you say that your conception of natural law is in the spirit of what Passio is trying to get at? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I've gone through all of his work. I've watched some of his seminars multiple times. And based off of everything I've heard and from all of my own thinking about his work, I think we're talking about the exact same thing.
So I don't want to put you on the spot to defend Passio, but if you guys think you're on the same track, I can't remember exactly where it was. Don't ask me for a timestamp, but there was a point in the stream, and I remember this very vividly, where he says rape is wrong. It's a moral bad. And under what you've presented to us, that can only be true if you already think that it is that way. You have to make the moral determination, the moral calculus somewhere else to say rape is wrong. And then all of this other stuff falls into place. But he doesn't sell it like that. When he says rape is wrong, he says it's objective morality that it's bad and it's wrong. And that's completely different from what we're talking about here. I don't think...
If you're wrong, fuck you. Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know if the stream would have ever even happened if Passio sold it as anything less than this is the moral truth. Because it would have been hey, this is a path to freedom or something like that. We'd be having a completely different conversation, completely different about what Passio is. But so that's what I'm trying to what you have is fine. We've established that of what it is and what it's meant to do. But I don't have anything against him. But I don't like roping Passio's views into this because I don't feel like it accurately represents what he's saying.
I'm also getting kind of just to be honest with the audience. I'm kind of over talking about Passio at this point. He's not showing up for his own positions, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of talking about it. So I guess I actively don't want you to defend Passio. Like, if he won't defend
Yeah, that's
himself,
fine.
then I'm over it. Like, I want you to defend your own positions, I guess is what that's my feeling. Christian, if you'd like him to do that, that's fine. I will go along with it. But man, we've been doing this a while, and it's a little tired.
I don't think it's fair to his own ideas to tie them to Passio. I think Passio's is much more assertive and baseless than this could be, because it tries to do so much more with so much less. This has what you've presented as like a very clear set of goals and how to achieve them, and that's fine. But I don't see the point in nestling yourself with all the extra baggage. But I would recommend that you don't.
I would recommend that you don't. Like, you have a good good.
That's really what I'm trying to say here. Is like, I would recommend that you don't try to tie this to Passio. Like, if anything, I would recommend even rebranding it, like something like the Path to Freedom, and you put this forward and just drop the word morality from it. I think a lot of people would resonate with this. I resonate with a lot of it. As long as we separate it from like the philosophical moral context, I think there's a lot of good stuff here.
Yep, agree.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. That's actually a very useful way of thinking about it, because it frames it in such a way where it avoids all this unnecessary confusion that comes when you use the phrase objective morality. And I think that's very useful, because then you have to it's just a much easier battle to fight,
right,
in order to get people to understand this sort of information.
When I came into this, I was expecting to go in a completely different kind of direction, where we were going to be talking about Hume's law and stuff like that. But, this doesn't take on any of those burdens. So I wouldn't, shackle yourself to those requirements if I was you.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. It'd be cool at some point in the future to go a little deeper into some of these occult topics and to see how it could be applied to people's lives and to improve them in some way. If you guys would be open to that, or if you guys want to focus on different topics, that's cool too.
Why don't you pick one and we can do it now? Are you prepared for that, or are you wanting to come back later?
Yeah, I don't have really anything I want to talk about off on the top of my mind right now.
Let's do it like this.
Go ahead and
let's do it like this then. So I'll give you an open invitation to return to the show, and the title of the show will be something like, Justin is going to teach Patrick one thing that will improve his life from the occult, or something like that. And then you can pick the topic, and we can dive into whatever occult topic you'd like to, and you can show me how it would actually improve my life. Is that a good plan? What do you think?
I think that's a really cool way of doing it, actually.
All right, awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, Justin, thank you for showing up for your ideas. You are a better human than most just for that alone. So it's been a cool conversation. Thank you, Christian. You have anything else you want to say? Otherwise, I think we can cut Justin loose and move on to the next.
Nope. Thanks for sharing your ideas.
Justin,
awesome. Yeah, not a problem.
You get the last word. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I really do appreciate your guys' work. You're doing a lot of good in the world.
Thank you.
Just the group of people that would even care to have a discussion like this, the group of people that would try to discover truth, is a very special group of people. And I'm happy to be associated with you guys, because we're both on the same mission.
Hell yeah.
So keep doing what you're doing, and let's make this world more free.
You said it very well. Thank you, sir. Good. So you are, if you can, go ahead and disconnect. And I think we have the next person coming up here. Let's see. Let me know.
All right. See you guys.
Take it easy, Justin. Okay. So hopefully our next caller is waiting, ready to connect, and is doing so now. So you have the green light. Go ahead and connect when you can. In the meantime, Justin Pedini, welcome back to the chat. He says, I challenge any of you to answer the objective morality question as the last video on my page. Patrick, I bet you can answer it. Give me a link. Give me a link. I like a challenge. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. One more time, just for the caller out there. You are green lit to connect. So go ahead. We'll give you a little bit longer. Also, we are holding a space on the Discord channel right now. If you'd like to call in, if you have something you want to chat about, question you want to ask, or a disagreement, a debate you want to have, you're welcome to join our Discord server, connect to the live streaming voice channel, and we'll bring you on the show. It'll be a call in.
Patrick, where did you get that Mean War veteran hat?
Oh, our caller has connected and we're hearing ourselves. Sir, you have. We're going to need headphones. Please wear headphones. Hello, hello.
I have some mic issues.
Yeah, we'll give him a second. That's fine. We didn't. He didn't have the benefit of being able to connect before the show and test his audio equipment, so that's fine.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
I said he. I misgendered you. Holy shit! How's it going?
Good. What's going on?
Hey, good.
Hello,
Do you have video? I don't think you do. That's fine.
No, I don't have video.
All
Sorry
good.
I use my fintech handle, so I don't want to dox myself.
I recognize your voice, though.
Yes.
Did I talk to you about veganism?
Yes, you did.
Nice. Welcome back to the show, I should say. For those of you that don't know, if you go back and look at the channel, I think we had Finding Truth with a Moral Vegan was the name of the show, where I talked to her for a good while about veganism. So welcome back.
Oh,
great video, by the way.
Please don't torture yourself. I mean, wonderful if you want to hear the amazing Patrick, but yeah. Hi, how you doing? Christian, right? Is that right?
Yes. Hi. How's it going?
Nice to meet you. I don't think I've met you. Guys, I love your work. I've been following it. You know, I just have, so it's really interesting. There's just a few things that I have, that I'm trying to wrap my mind around. I don't think these are, you know, please don't have any high expectations. So,
hey, I'm good to just have a chat. That's fine.
Cool. So the first thing that just kind of I'm trying to resolve in my mind is when you were talking about the abortion issue, and you were, I'm happy that you came to the conclusion that all abortion is murder. But you kind of single out specifically rape, saying that using the Walter Block, the eviction term, and saying that rape is a morally justified murder, and that in the case of rape, it's the rapist who is morally culpable for the murder. And I'd like to push back on that, only because I didn't like your analogy of.
Okay, hold on. Let me frame that, because I'm not sure that that was my position. Maybe it was, but let me just reframe it. So the part of that I hate, and that I am emotionally against, and I point that out because a lot of people will accuse people of holding their positions based on feels, and this is one of my positions that I hold in direct contradiction of my feels. I really wish and would love to be able to prove that there is no justified baby murder. I hate having to point out that that to be consistent, we have to place the mother's right to her body property above that of the innocent child that was put there against everyone involved's consent. I fucking hate that position. So if you have an argument that can change my mind, just know that my bias is in your favor, and I would very much be excited to hear it. But I'm going to be held to whatever position by force of reason alone, no matter what I feel about it. So I just wanted to say that. Go ahead, though.
Yeah, so I appreciate it, and I'm not sure it'll be very convincing. But my whole idea is if you were to remove or place the culpability upon the rapist, you're then saying that she has no authority or direct agency in the actual decision. And that's not the case. The actual end all, and actually Christian had said, I hate to call you out, I love you also, and I could be in a different, you were rebuting something, but you had said that intent is subjective. There's no way to pin down intent for a motivator for anything. It's inconsequential to the calculus whether or not you intend to break the window or to push the person. What matters is the results and reality. Now, I don't know if that's because you were also talking about abortion, and I agree with that. That's what I actually, that's what I agree with, because in the end, the rapist is gone. He's no longer a part of the equation. The entirety of the outcome of the live or die is based purely on the woman, nobody else. And she has full authority to either say, go, you're either going to play God. She has that ability to do that. So even though we all agree that it would still be murder, I disagree that it would be a justified murder. I would say that there would still be a reasonable amount of culpability on this, placed on the mother's shoulders. And the analogy I would use, because you use the gas station analogy, a guy holding somebody up, and someone else goes to try to save everybody and hits an innocent bystander, right? I hate to Godwin this thread, but I have to. But let's take, for example, Nazi Germany. Okay, we're in a house and we're Germans, right? And there's nobody around we're in the sticks, and we know that the Nazis come by at noon every day to just check, knock, do their rounds, make sure everything's okay. Hey, have you seen any Jews? Okay, now at the last minute, as the Nazis are pulling up the drive, we look and we notice that our barn door's open, and we see, a person, a family, whoever run in there. We know that they're in there. We know that the Nazis aren't going to go look. They trust us. They're just like, hey, have you seen any Nazis, right? We have, in that moment, we don't consent to them coming in. We fully don't consent. We don't have anything to do with the Jews, right? We don't want them on our property. But it's to say that we're not morally culpable, knowing full well that if we say, hey, Nazis, those Jews are in the barn, and we know that they're going to be executed on the spot. I can't get behind that. I think that is, yes, you don't consent in that moment, but in that brief of a moment, there is direct agency to make that decision, and the outcome is purely, when the outcome rests on the direct agency of the decision maker, you then have moral culpability. So that's my argument.
I mean, man, my feels are on your side. My feels are 150% on your side. And any woman that chose to not abort a baby or even evict, any woman that chose to not evict a baby conceived through rape is a fucking hero. Like, these people should be, I don't know, given medals and put on a pedestal. And the community, I would love to see a community that rallied around them and helped them with resources and whatever they needed. Like, these are heroic women. I mean, that's where I'm at on that. But it's their property. And if they choose to not consent to that continued trespass, I can't think of an argument that prevents them from being able to restore their property to the condition that they wanted it in, and the condition that they didn't consent to having it made into. And we can talk about the Nazi analogy if you want, but I think there's some pretty clear disanalogies there, right? Like, the Jews in the barn, you would have the right to forcibly remove them. And just because there's like another thread involved doesn't erase your right to restore your barn. Now, you may choose not to, and I would call you a hero in that situation as well for choosing to allow the trespass to continue at the behest of the victims of the Nazis. Absolutely. But that doesn't erase the fact that it's your right, if you chose to repossess your barn from the trespassers. I don't see an argument against that, and I would really, really love it if you could give me one. Christian, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think that's pretty much exactly the direction I was going to go in. So I'm just curious to hear more for now.
Well, I thought about that, and I thought, okay, I'm pretty sure that that's what you're going to say. So I figured that. I feel there's a lot of emotional comments that I'll just save everybody from. But the only other thing then that I would say is, I noticed in the argument in throughout the 3 hours, and then the other debate rebutting the other whoever it was, I forget, but you say that that women consent to at the moment that a woman becomes pregnant, that she consents to conception. And I think that that is completely inaccurate, because I think that that's a problem. I think that the women are not consenting. They're fully, purposefully, and only intended to have a sexual, or they're looking for a pleasure time, right? They're not consenting to conception. And that's why they go and seek an abortion. And so in that same instance, I would have to say then, well, then if you want to apply that, you'd have to apply it to the same scenario of the rapist, because even if, and we have to say, because I was trying to argue with myself to go back and forth. I'm like, okay, even though most people, most women are not going to consent, clearly that's the problem. That's why they're going to get the abortion, to the conceiving part, right? It might have been they were certain of their cycle and they didn't think that would happen, or they were certain, completely reliant on a sort of birth control, and that didn't work, and whatever it might be, but they did not consent. They wanted to take part, the sexual pleasure, not the baby. Now, in those cases, we all agreed, sorry, we still all agree that it's murder, and I agree, but I just have a problem with, then would we have to be consistent in those instances, because it's still not consent. They're not consenting to that. So what do you think about that?
Well, I talked last time, so I'll give Christian the chance if he wants to do this time.
Yeah, so if it was me that said like a consent was a key part of that interaction, then I might have misspoken. Maybe there's some context there that I'm missing. What's important is that they were willfully involved in the act that led to the consequences, right? So just to bring another analogy, and we'll even do, like, let's say a pleasure one. I'm out at the range just shooting my guns for fun. I have no intention of shooting a person. In fact, I'm doing everything I can to not do so. And my bullet magically slips through the berm and hits somebody on the other side driving down the road or whatever. I'm still fully culpable for what that bullet did, even though I had zero intention of having that happen. So if someone has, if someone has sex for casual or for just leisure or whatever, just for fun, then they still have to be, they're still responsible for the results of their actions. And I guess where the consent would come in is the fact that they consented to put themselves in the position for that to happen to begin with. No one was like forcing them against their will in order to do it or something like that. So.
And that's what, and I see that, and I definitely agree with you with the culpability aspect. I don't think like I said, I still agree that we will still say that it's murder. But in that instance, I guess my argument would then be, if you were to say that a rapist, because she didn't consent to the act and it was put in her body, but if you're basing it off of the idea of consent, right? Women have, I think it's just a disconnect from reality to think that humans don't purely have intercourse for sex, and they do not want a baby most of the time. I would say that that's 99% of the time. I don't know about you guys, but 99% of the time, most humans have sex. They are not trying to make a baby. So in those instances, I would have to say that yes, it would then be to align with the idea of consent. It would again be a justified murder. And I hate to also say a justified murder in that way, but if we're going to be consistent, I don't see any way to around that. And the biggest thing with this is, and I went through all of your points, and you guys did such a great job going through all those hours. At the end, I was caught up because it was the question of what should be the consequence. And what should be the consequence of a woman getting an abortion? And I think that's the biggest issue that we need to, this is my personal opinion, that we need to be talking about. Because, and you guys could shut me up at any time, okay? You could just tell me to go to hell. Okay.
No, you're one of the most cogent guests I ever have on the show, so I'm happy to let you talk. Go ahead.
Oh, he's just flattering me. He's just trying to make me feel good. But so the only reason I say this is my personal experience, and I hate to bring in my own anecdotal evidence, but I was a religious zealot growing up, really bad, and I was taught, trained, indoctrinated to believe that Catholicism was the way. And where I come from, we have they're literal annual pro-life. I know we hate that, though, not to use that term, but that's just for the sake of communication. These pro-life marches, and what they would teach us is to go out and we would protest the Planned Parenthoods. And I did that. As like a young adult. And the more that I did that, and the more that I showed up, I realized that the majority of these women that I would speak to, and I did this for a couple of years. It took me a really long time to strip religion, that institution. These are just stupid women, and I say stupid as in like that article, like just like like you just don't know. You know what I mean? Like you don't know. Call it nescience, call it ignorance. They understand that but they really do. Like, people actually have they can't conceive of the sacredness of this process. And when I talked to them, I had to stop, because my arguments to them were messing them up, where some cases they wouldn't go in and they would turn around. But then I knew that their life is going to be changed forever, but also it's going to get horrible, like it's going to get bad before it gets better. And they have a lot and I cannot be there. I'm not going to be there to help them pay their bills. I'm not going to be there to help give them houses. There was a woman who was homeless and on drugs. For the time, I wouldn't be able to do any of that. I could just say, hey, look, it's murder. Don't do it. Turn around. And I realized, the whole, moral question. People ask me, how do you define morality? And I think it's, the best way for me to define it is it's answering.
What's your position on abortion?
I believe that abortion is murder.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Okay. I was hearing a few things that kind of alluded to that not being your position. So it was interesting.
Yes,
so you participated in protests outside of abortion mills and actually changed some people's minds, you think?
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. We have a girl.
Then you're a hero. That's amazing. That's awesome. Good job.
I don't feel that way, though.
Life includes suffering. We all suffer in various ways. That is existence. And when we make bad decisions, we pay for those bad decisions. And we usually fight through them and come out the other side for the better. And the kid that grew up because of what you did is probably very happy that you were there that day. Like, imagine meeting one of those kids that would not exist had you not been there and talking to them. Do you think they'd thank you? I kind of bet they would. I kind of bet that they would hug you and appreciate your existence. Even if they had a hard childhood, because their parent was, didn't have the resources or whatever that other parents do, even if they had rough times as a kid, I bet most of them would thank you, shake your hand and hug you.
So this is the thing, and yes, I agree with you to an extent, but then also at this same in that same moment, I realize, like, while I would love to help educate all women and help all women understand the sacredness of what it is, the whole process is, we can't, I mean, like, we could try, and for my lifetime, I'll do as much as I can, but for the time that a woman is taught in whichever way, right? We all live completely different lives, completely different journeys. Everyone is different. Whatever mind has been, whatever ideas have been built up in those individuals' minds, and they were to get an abortion, right? At this point, I mean, like, I would not be able to advocate any sort of violence against them in any way, because most of the time I see all the women that I know that actually got an abortion are, excuse me, but they're just messed up psychologically. And it's a horrible process, biologically, physiologically, and then mentally. And they have to deal with that for the rest of their lives, right? And that's so, like, I'm going to catch 22. But let me ask you, what would you guys, because that wasn't answered, what would you personally advocate? I don't roll your eyes, Christian. He's like, what would you personally
Christian
advocate?
rolled his eyes. Did you roll your eyes?
I didn't roll my eyes. It was more like oh God, how do I answer this on YouTube?
I'll let you answer first if you want, Christian, but this has been the number one question following that stream, so I'm glad that we're probably going to take a minute now to address it. We didn't address it on that stream for the same reason. Correct me. I mean, let me know if you disagree, Christian. We didn't address it on that stream for the same reason we didn't state our own position on moral philosophy when we were critiquing Passio's work, for example, because the moral right or wrongness of the thing that we're talking about, or the correctness or incorrectness of Passio's philosophy, for example, is completely separate from our positions on what should happen next or whatever in the case of abortion. Maybe I mixed metaphors there a little bit much, but the therefore what part of it comes after we've made the moral argument, and we wanted to keep that video focused on the moral argument, because once that's decided, now we can talk about how to handle it once we know that abortion is murder, for example. So I'll let you talk about it first, Christian, if you want, or I can. It's up to you.
I have to qualify this. I have to say it to qualify this first off. So just real quick, I won't spend too much time on it, but
don't say anything that'll get your dog shot. He's a beautiful dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're starting just with the philosophy again. There is no moral onus for you to do anything if anyone does anything bad, first off. You could be right there watching someone get murdered and turn around and walk away. You have zero responsibility. Now, what are my feels on that? We can get into that in a second, but I need to make sure it's super clear that as far as the philosophy is concerned, you don't have to do anything. You're totally justified in not doing anything. You can know somebody who has had an abortion. You can know someone who's going to get one. It's not on you to, there's no moral onus for you to do anything about that. You might be justified in doing something about that. And so now I'll talk about what I believe to be the true statement as far as like what the other end of this is. And it's, you could do anything to a person who'd got an abortion that you could otherwise do to a murderer. You can let your imagination run wild as far as what the most extreme consequences you could think of for that could be. But they're a state of nature being, they killed someone, it is murder. Move forward with that information how you will. What I would do is not hunt down every single person who's ever had an abortion, just like I don't hunt down every single person who's murdered, and I don't hunt down every single person who's stolen something, etc., yada yada. It's not, none of us do that. No, maybe somebody wants to make a career out of that. Not me, right? I'm not a bounty hunter. That's not what I do. And I personally probably wouldn't commit direct violence to somebody I knew who did something like that. And if I didn't know them, I probably wouldn't have enough information to even make a judgment one way or the other. However, I do think that there is a case to be made for the same organizations that would deal with security in a free society to deal with these sorts of circumstances, and the same systems of arbitration that deal with other moral crimes to deal with abortion, and to have their structures in place to be able to assess these situations as murderers. So
let me give mine, maybe, or do you want to respond to him first?
You could go.
All right. I should probably not be playing with my pocket knife like it's a fidget spinner while talking about this. So let me put that down. I'm going to read my response to somebody that actually asked me this in direct message after that video, because I think it's a good summation that I thought a lot about. So I have several answers. I have a societal level answer, and then I have an individual answer, and then I have a for me answer. So my answer for a free society is the same for any other crime. The market will figure out how to best handle it. The solutions, the aggressive solutions, maybe they'll work, maybe they won't. There might also be better, sort of more focused ideas that come out of the free market for solving this problem. Very likely around, a free market for adoption would probably be the biggest thing that would prevent abortion. Like if you found out you got pregnant and you didn't want to keep the kid and you could make $30,000 by adopting it, well, that's going to change the equation probably more than a lot of the other violent solutions would. Getting the government out of the business of controlling adoption would be a big one. I'm also sure that some areas of the world wouldn't care about abortions, and abortions would probably go on there in a free society. And I also think that there would be other areas that agreed with our conclusion on the topic and would associate amongst themselves in ways that would make that punishable by various methods that they agreed on to sort of run in those circles. Like that's my best conception of what a free society would function like. It's not perfect. It wouldn't be an absence of abortion because everybody understands. That's not how humans have ever worked or will ever work, unfortunately. My answer on for what an individual should do is basically just what Christian said. If you show that you don't reciprocate rights with other beings, then the people around you sort of lose the onus to respect your rights. If I see Christian punch somebody, I no longer have to make sure that I don't harm Christian, because he's shown that he's not sort of a rights reciprocating being. He's chosen to hurt an innocent person. Now, notice that that's not me prescribing what you should do as an individual. I'm saying that you just no longer have the onus to respect that person's rights. That's my individual judgment. For me, personally, I'm a little nuanced. Almost all of society is teaching kids that this is normal and fine. I was a victim of that indoctrination. I allowed an ex of mine to kill one of my children, and I don't talk about that much. I didn't know what I know now. I didn't think like I think now. You're right. A lot of the people going in there to do this stuff is ignorant and stupid, and even the smart ones are ignorant and stupid about these topics because they've been sort of brought up. They've been indoctrinated, just like they've been indoctrinated in so many other ways. So because of that, I hope that some redemption is possible for me. And if I want people to allow me to be redempted, I have to also allow other people a little redemption and a little room for redemption as well. So I guess when it comes down to it, if I think a person is acting out of ignorance, I will probably give them a chance to see reason before I personally would disassociate from them or take some other action. But if they're one of these hashtag shout your abortion types, or they're among the people actively working as activists to make it easier for people to kill their kids, I wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. I would probably stand by and have some popcorn while they burned. Like, so that's me. So that's all three. That's society, individual for other people, and my personal perspective. So.
I really appreciate that, Patrick. I think that's beautiful, and I really think that it was needed because at the time when this topic is so, hot in society, I felt people are going to be coming to the YouTubes and the internets. They're going to be looking for, a way to either validate or invalidate whatever arguments they have. And, no offense, Christian, but I feel like, your response, that is not it's not, while I can understand it as a more emotionally mature individual and coming from a place of, philosophy and depth, I think that if we were to leave and put something like that out, just murder to murder, that the regular populace can't handle that. The majority of individuals, and that's what I'm helping in my mind when I think of morality or thinking of a way to approach a situation like the abortion issue, which I fully admit and completely concur that, as I said, all abortion is murder. Even and fully capable, fully culpable mothers, even in the form of rape, right? The issue is helping us get to a more emotionally mature level in society. And I'm not talking about the societal determinant. I'm talking about the epigenetic form, like the actual processing of the cognitive moral development of humanity, which we are severely suffering from. The majority of people are not emotionally mature and severely lacking. And if we came from a place of emotional maturity, I mean, I think that most of the world's problems could honestly be solved. Because you could just imagine all of the things that are required for an emotionally mature person to handle, because what it is it's developing a balance between the intellect and then external reality, and being able to not be negatively or positively influenced by our emotions, but just assess the situation, as is. So something else you said, Patrick, and like I said, I love this stuff that you're talking about. You were talking about, you were like, yeah, so would I take a 16-year-old girl and throw her in a cage? Well, if there was a 16-year-old kid and if he killed somebody, you would, we just replace that and you'd be able to be fine with him being thrown in a cage. And I fully disagree. I think that restorative justice is more on the lines of where we need to be pushing society in the realm of emotional maturity, because stupidity, and when I say stupidity, I know I mentioned this before, but have you guys ever read that article by Carlo Cipolla, if I'm pronouncing the name right?
I don't think so.
I haven't.
So he said he came up with like these 5 laws of stupidity, he calls it, right? And
only 5?
Yeah. So the 5 basic laws of stupidity. 1 is always and inevitably everyone underestimates the number of stupid individuals in circulation. Second, the probability that a certain person is stupid is independent of any other characteristic of that person. Doesn't matter if you're a blue-collar worker, you're the president, or you're a bum on the street. Third basic law, a stupid person. Now, this is the cool part, because this is when it gets interesting. A stupid person is defined as one who causes losses to another person or group of people while they also gain nothing or even suffer their own losses. Fourth basic law, non-stupid people always underestimate the damaging power of stupid individuals in particular.
These are very good. These are very, very good.
Non-stupid people. Do you want me to continue or do you want to look it up?
No, yeah, go ahead. There's one more,
okay.
right?
Yeah, and then one more. In particular, non-stupid people constantly forget that at any time and place and circumstance dealing and or hanging out with stupid people always turns out to be a costly mistake. And then the fifth basic law is stupid people are the most dangerous type of people. And what he did was he created like this, these quadrants of, he named them. Like one is a stupid person, one is a hopeless person. Then one is, I think they call him, he refers to him as a bandit and something else. But the idea is that in the quadrants, it's how you define an action is determining where the loss is. And if, like if you get a gain while someone else gets a loss, that's, you're a bandit. But a stupid person, as I said, that's when you cause someone else to lose and you're also losing, or you don't gain anything, right? And so just with that definition, I think a lot of people are stupid. And this is what we're dealing with in society. And I just feel that if we put out something like what we're saying, which you can't really refute it, that abortion is murder, we have to at least help people understand or give them alternatives to process in their mind of like, okay, so what are the steps that we take now, right? Because that's the whole point of talking about this, is to change the cultural mores of our society so we don't have to worry about abortion. So it's like, okay, we don't want to harm people. That's not what we want to do. And we understand that a lot of people that are getting these abortions, they actually really don't understand the depth and what this is. So how can we begin to change this dynamic and, this environmental landscape or mental philosophical landscape, rather? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I personally, I think the most effective thing I can do personally is fight the government, because I am not exaggerating when I say that my wife and I were looking into adopting at a couple points in our marriage. And both times we realized, and we ran into the wall of government regulation and the government child adoption market manipulation that it does. If we wanted to adopt, it would be like $60,000, $60,000 to $80,000, depending on how we did it. And we would have to submit to we would have to open our home up to agencies like, it's not CPS, but it's something like that, to review and have an open door almost if they wanted to come back and review again in the future to make sure that, we met their standards. I am not about to open my house up I'm not about to give the government a free ticket to walk in my door anytime they want. Ever. And what that literally means, what that directly means is that there are children out there right now alive in the world that would be here in my home being raised peacefully, principally, that are not, because of that intervention. And so, at least for me, I think the most important thing we can do as individuals is to fight and get the government the hell out of the child adoption industry. Because, that one of the first things you hear when you're talking to people that are pro-abortion is that, you only care about them before they're born. After they're born, you don't want to have any responsibility for them. And I'm like, look, I would have adopted some, but I can't because this government is in the way. So that's my thought on it.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. And I think I actually, a couple of years ago, I had come up with a bunch of alternative solutions to people in the case of, okay, once you admit that abortion is murder, now what? So what are you going to do? And all of the solutions, unfortunately, once I actually looked them up, they were all illegal. You actually couldn't do the things that would benefit a mom to incentivize a woman to carry through with the abortion, because you can't involve money in this situation, right? There are so many things that if we were to get government out of the way, yes, abortion wouldn't even be a thing. As a matter of fact, I think baby making would probably be, right? And surrogates and all this stuff would probably go through the roof. I love you guys. And I see in the comments someone said unschool. And so I have to do a little plug because I just love this book. And I know probably most of you have heard about it already, but Weapons of Mass Instruction by John Taylor Gatto. Incredible. Once you read that, you cannot go back. So check that out.
Keep your kids the hell out of government schools.
Yes.
100%.
Guys, you're wonderful. Thank you for listening to my trash.
Not trash. You're welcome back anytime. Just say the word.
All right, Christian, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm not up to pop for you. He's like, "Jizz, this doesn't."
No.
I'm sorry.
We've had too much agreement on this show today. We need some fire. So we're gonna. I have something coming up. I'm gonna challenge one of the. We got a guy in the comments that's been like half-ass trolling in the comments on another video about natural law. Zubrix, I'm calling you out. Get on the Discord server right now. Get in the live streaming voice channel. You were talking mad shit in the comments. I'm calling you out. Let's do it. Get in the voice channel. Sorry, go ahead.
Sounds
The only thing I wanted to say before I let you go is that I completely agree. And I don't even know when I started doing this again. I need to look that up. I should probably know that. But whatever time I started doing this again until now, the 99% of that has been what I would call my activism phase, where it's like railing against the government, talking about the primacy of consent, focusing mostly on these arguments that are like highly receptive to the average person. And I do agree that like what the answer that I gave it may not be receptive to the average person. But I feel like if we can get people on the train of understanding consent and understanding good ethics, check out antisubjectivism.com for a glimpse at what that might look like. Then this is the kind of answers that people will need to hear, at least in my opinion, what I gave. Is it for everybody in all times and all places? No, it's not a universal answer. Not everybody will be receptive to that. But I do completely agree with you, though, that like when we're looking at this from the perspective of doing activism, we definitely have to be more careful about how we approach these problems and what language we use and how we talk about them. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for acknowledging that, Christian, because I got to tell you, sometimes I'm on Twitter because I have like my fintech community out there, and I got to tell you, some of these things that I hear, I'm just like, do these people really believe this? Are they just saying this because it's, like a keyboard warrior type thing? Or would these people actually, like follow through with some of the stuff that they're saying? So it's good to hear that. So I appreciate you. But yes, I love the anti-subjectivism manifesto. I've had to read it a couple times, and my sustainability partner and I were trying to break it down and add to it. And but he has much more advanced ideas about it than I do. I'm still at the process of trying to absorb it, So, but it's a fabulous work. I love you guys very much. Thank you for everything that you guys do.
Thank you for coming on. Where do you live? I mean, you don't have to out yourself if you don't want to, but I hope that we get to hang out sometime. Are you going to Jackalope by any chance? I'm kind of thinking about doing another Ancampistan at Jackalope coming up in Arizona here early August. Are you going to be there?
No, I'm not. I just missed you at Float.
Were you there?
No, I was. Oh. So I haven't been able to, but I had a bunch of people go, and it was tough. It just poor timing. We're trying to get our sustainability. We're doing like trips out to Kenya and ICE. We have a bunch of stuff going on, but mostly we're focusing on our fintech community right now. Cryptocurrency. Whoop whoop. Everybody, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but stack those sats. Yeah, Bitcoin to 10K, guys, just letting you know. Good stuff though. Good stuff. Like I'm saying, save it, get that fiat in there. But yeah, I actually
mentioned buy in.
Patrick, do you remember me? Larkin Rose event.
Were you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I don't remember, so I apologize if we've actually hung out. Oh. Yeah, I think I might be remembering. Okay, cool. Yeah.
We've gone to some of the volunteers meet us. We're gonna be moving back to Texas soon, so we need to do that.
Good to hear. All right, well, I'll let you go. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Zubrick says we're full of shit. I'm waiting. I don't see you in Discord.
It's a hell of an argument.
I'm waiting.
Honestly, I think we've been defeated.
I know.
We're full of shit.
Yeah.
Therefore, it is true.
We are as full of shit as natural law is as a moral philosophy. Oh, I said it. Come on and prove me wrong. I'm waiting. Hop in Discord. I'm waiting. Come on, man. Now's your chance. I even warned you we were doing this show days ago in the comments. You should have been here. Come on. Now's your chance. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong in front of the whole audience. Or don't. Whatever. I get so tired of these. The comments that are the least valuable are the ones that are like, oh, these guys are doing controlled opposition stuff because they're dividing the community. They're trying to divide us. Or I got another one today that was like, you're doing this for the money and the subscribers. It's like,
how does the controlled opposition theory even work? It's like, oh, look at these guys. They also want to take down the government. Like, oh, the controlled opposition. Like, what? Okay.
Yeah. We agree with all of Passio's conclusions. Just not how he gets there. But yeah, okay. We're trying to stop you. We're actively telling Passio followers to, go with his conclusions, live peacefully, and stand against the government. Oh yeah, we're doing controlled opposition stuff. Come on now. Whatever. All right.
If only I had known sooner, I could have stopped this.
All right. Well, I guess we're not going to get any perfectly genuine individuals that are in the comments to join us. So we'll go ahead and end the stream there. Thanks for joining me again, Christian. I appreciate you. I've enjoyed this stream. I think tomorrow we're going to be doing a fun stream where we're going to play a video game. Can you pimp that show? Tell us about the video game we're going to be playing.
Yes, we're going to be playing. It's a game called Trolley Problem. And it starts, I'll just give you a little preview if it sounds something interesting to you. It starts with the standard trolley problem. You got 4 people tied up on one track, 1 person on the other. If you pull the lever, it moves from the 4 people to the 1 person. Already, I was hooked on the idea of this being a game. But we also get feedback from how everybody answered, how the creator of the game answered, and snarky comments, depending on what we choose. So there should be lots of hopefully interesting hypotheticals for us to work through, because who doesn't like working through ethical hypotheticals? And also, we'll get to enjoy some entertaining perspectives from both the game and potentially from the statistics it gives us.
What percentile of the population do you think we're going to fall in? I'm assuming it's going to give us some kind of information.
Yeah, I think we might actually be surprised how often we agree with a large group of people, but I think if it gives us an aggregate whole at the end or something, I don't think very many people will fall into I'm just being honest, but who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised.
All right, cool. So join us tomorrow evening for that. And for everybody else, you're welcome to join us on the Discord server tonight. We're going to be having movie night as we do every Saturday evening. We're going to be watching no, we're not going to be watching anything copyrighted.
No, yeah. No, of course not.
And we're definitely not watching the new Beavis and Butthead movie tonight, because that would probably be illegal. Ooh. So just definitely don't show up for that at 10:30 p.m. Central. So, all right, guys. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.